a choice right now, between fear and love. It's just a rock.
Out of the dark night of ignorance and into the shining light of truth.
Expanding reality.
A population of citizens capable of critical thinking.
We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are.
There's a level of reality where everything dissolves into an ocean of energy.
We empower our experience by insisting on our authenticity.
That's very profound. Very.
Expanding reality.
Welcome to Expanding Reality. I am your host, Brandon Thomas. On this incredibly cool episode, guys, we have Graham Dunlop joining us from the Grimerica podcast. One of my favorite shows. Definitely check it out. All the ways, of course, to find him linked in the show notes. Check it out. On this one, guys, we talk his narration that is absolutely fascinating, his 1990 UFO sighting over in Israel, which is super awesome and very unique. You guys are really going to like it. As well as government disclosure. We're both not a fan, spoiler alert. As well as his contact at the cabin that he does with Randall Carlson and David Warner Matheson. All sorts of really cool stuff going on with that. As well as some fascinating new information on the D.B. Cooper case. So this is an incredibly cool conversation with one of the dopest dudes ever. Graham, I can't thank you enough, man. This is a blast, brother. So again, guys, all the ways to find him located down in the show notes. Make sure you'll check that out. While you're down there, you may as well get a gander at our resource links. They're all there for you, so go ahead and check them out. As well as expandingrealitypodcast.com. That's the only link you need from us. That's a central hub for everything. It's going to take you to all your favorite socials. You know, the show goes out to over 50-something different platforms, so you can find it. It's out there. So expandingrealitypodcast.com, that's the link you'll want. And that is also, if you were wondering, hey, how do I support the show? You're super awesome and dope. First of all, thank you. Second of all, you can do that by signing up to become an Expansive Insider. That's where all the bonus stuff is at. Now, if you want to support the show and not take advantage of all the extra stuff that we've got going on, we facilitate that for you too. There's a link down in the show notes that says support the mission, and that is the best way to do it. And I'm grateful for everyone that's participating in value exchange. That's what it's all about, right? All right, guys, now that we got that going, let's get to this incredibly cool conversation with Graham Dunlop. Welcoming to the show, we have Graham Dunlop from the Grimerica. Super excited, man. Been a fan of yours for a long time. You know, I've run around the same circles with the Union of the Unwanted and alt media and all that stuff. So it's super fucking cool to get you on. Graham, how are you, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on, man. It's been great to meet a whole bunch of other podcasters, and it's kind of weird just doing this since 2013, but also seeing like a whole wave of more people jumping in and doing this, right? It's great.
It's really remarkable. And you are one of the pioneers in this. You're one of my inspirations for starting the show, which is awesome. I mean, I'm sure you get that a lot, right?
That sounds weird. I mean, that's what I mean. This is really weird to even hear that, because we were questioning it back in 2013. Like, is it too late to start a podcast?
Yeah, that's when you feel like you missed the boat. And then you have all the new people coming on, which I don't disagree with. And you see so many more of them, which I highly encourage. I mean, I'm an affiliate for our hosting site because of that, because I just want everybody that wants to amplify their voice to do it. We empower people to do that. And so I love that. So for my audience that's just not super familiar with you, I'm so grateful to introduce you to them, by the way. So if you don't mind, sir, just let us know a little bit about you, man, before we get it going.
Yeah, man. Well, I quit my day job last year during COVID. I was just fed up with operations management type stuff to read books full time. Basically, I read books for the show. I narrate books for, we publish some books on Audible. I've been super grateful to read like awesome authors and get them out there for people to listen to. And we do some events like called Contact at the Cabin. So that's kind of a bit about like what's going on now. But me, I kind of, just a quick little background. I had a massive UFO sighting in 1990 in Israel while traveling around the Middle East and Europe. And that kind of opened me up. But then I had sort of the fall, and I'm realizing maybe like this is like a pattern. Like I had to go to the depths of hell basically through addiction. And I came out in 2008, started listening to podcasts, and have been sober ever since. So that's kind of like a gist of it. I've helped running some recovery groups. I've been into Reiki and other sort of spiritual practices along the way. So that's kind of a real high level.
Well, it is, and like I said, you're tremendous. So definitely want to unpack some of that stuff here for sure. But yes, you do narrate these incredible books. So let's talk about that for just a minute. So what got you into that first of all? Because when you do these, you put clips up of these, by the way, and I'm always enthralled by it. I'm just like, God damn, you have an awesome voice. So you do really well at this, and you're meant to do something like that, as you could tell. So what got you into that first of all?
Well, facing my fear, really, I had an opportunity to do it. And, you know, what's weird is when I got sober, I actually narrated the big book and the 12 steps and 12 traditions into a little digital mic. And I guess because I was listening to podcasts and so much stuff, I wanted to narrate that and then upload it into iTunes and download it to my phone or whatever you do back then.
Yeah, to have
like
it.
15
all
years
the
ago.
Steps. Yeah.
50, all those steps to get something into your ears. And I narrated that. And then I thought about it later on because I was reading emails like for years. I was reading stuff on the show. And that's sort of what got me into like being comfortable enough to read, because I was always, I don't know, I had a little bit of fear about speaking and stuff like that. But the podcast really forced me to open up and be comfortable with my reading voice. And I even had an ex-girlfriend, like, I hate your voice. Like, I had to get over some stuff about not having a good voice as well.
Yeah.
And then my current girlfriend's like, oh, you have a wonderful voice. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, what, you know, so really just getting over that fear. And then on a guest of ours, so I was already thinking about narrating stuff. I was going to narrate like a D&D book. I narrated a UFO book for my friend, how to see a UFO. I just said, I'll do this for free for you. And then I was going to do the book for Recovery Dharma. They had a book out. I was going to do that. So I was already sort of doing stuff, you know, for sort of volunteer for free. And one of our guests who wrote a book on spiritual alchemy called Concerto. No, what was it again? Let me, geez, now I got to make sure I get this right here. It was a pretty fascinating book, Song of the Immortal Beloved. It was a contemporary explanation of spiritual alchemy. And I had a hard time with spiritual alchemy, but it started to click to me. I'm like, wow, we have this ability to transmute emotions and transmute energies ourselves through the centers of our body. And it was a long book, and he's like, why don't you narrate it? I want to get it on audio. And my first reaction was like, no, can't do that. And then I was like, what? Why am I just resist? Like, why am I so scared of this? Like, what the fuck? And I was like, I got a day job already. Like, I don't have time, but I got the show. And then I'm like, why aren't I using this? So I really I talked to Darren. I'm like, why am I rejecting this right away? And like, maybe we should try this. And so Darren and I did it. He edited it and produced it, and I narrated the whole book. And it just opened up a floodgate of opportunities. And then we started doing these books that we found. And like, I started digging into, and then the other thing was I found an old copy of The Secret Doctrine at one of our events with Randall Carlson in an antique shop. And I was like, why is this this is for sale in an antique shop for like $40? So I bought it and I read it and I narrated it. And that was like one of the main sort of like jumping off points into like doing this. Like I was able to narrate a Blavatsky book and get it out on Audible.
It's incredible. Absolutely.
So yeah.
Incredible.
And then I quit my job, and everything coalesced at the right moment to get a whole bunch of this stuff out and actually sort of make a go of it. So I don't want to get too deep into that weeds, but it was really a case of like a leap of faith and then having everything come together.
Everything you described right here, even with this one exercise of just narrating books, you have covered the gamut as far as it goes, as far as learning and the way that we grow, because even you had a little bit of doubt, and that was mirrored back to you in the partner that you had at the time, and she only reinforced your doubt. And then whenever that relationship ended, as they do, then you moved into a new space to where you were comfortable with it, and therefore now your partner is absolutely comfortable and encouraging with it. That's how this place works, right? It's insane. But again, I think it's awesome because you were so scared of it, but you still went for it. And that running towards fear, the other side of that's where all the dope shit is, man.
Exactly.
It's an
And it's a lot of hard work.
example.
I mean, dude, I put hours and hours and hours and retake after retake into some of these very wordy books, looking up translations and pronunciations. And the only time you find it is in the book you're reading.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh my God, there's a word. And the only place I can find this word is in the book I'm reading.
Then you just go with it, go with it, interpret it how you feel, and then there's no cross-reference for it, right?
Exactly.
I love it, man. I absolutely love it. But how much have you learned from doing that? Like, not only about the task itself, but information.
Yeah, that's one of the, I mean, honestly, so the other part of this is I started to manifest, and I don't even want to use that word in a way. I started to imagine the possibility of making a living learning. Like that was one of my goals, because I've just been in this this curiosity, like I want to learn stuff. Like when I was in school, I just didn't want to learn anything. Now I want to learn. And so having the opportunity to do this, I mean, it is different because I'm not skimming through it as if I would read a book, but I'm also not able to study it. I mean, I'll go over parts of it and I'll highlight some stuff and pull it off to the side for later. I'll learn a little bit as I go, but it's kind of in the middle. Like, I can't study it and I can't skip through it either.
Right.
So I'm learning kind of like overarching things, but I'm still having a problem with the details. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. You probably empathize with this as well. This job that we do now, whenever I do a show, I listen to it with one ear with this, which is being mindful and all of that and present. And then I go back and edit, but the editing is a different ear that I listen to it with, and then I'll listen to it. And so it's wild because you get different ranges of absorption because you're in a different mode, even in your participation in it at the different stages.
Dude, even in the podcast, I mean, we talked to so many different guests and I'm interested in so many different topics that I can't really go too deep on any one, So it's, in some ways it's frustrating, but in some ways I don't really want to go deep on any one. I do like covering sort of like a little bit of surface level on many different things, maybe trying to pick, because I think part of my personality is I like to try and sort of pull things together, fit things together from a big picture level, which kind of gives me some ability to do that.
100%. And I knew you and I had a lot in common. Now I think we have a ton in common. So that's incredible, man. So let's talk about Grimerica. What made you start that in the first place?
Well, I was listening to a ton of podcasts and I this was back in 2007 and 2008. I didn't say this already, did I?
Well, you said 13 years, but go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was on a show just after. So I'm trying to remember what what I'm repeating or not. But and I was astounded in 2007, 2008, like there's all this topics for free. People are talking about all this stuff for free. And I was just blown away. I could learn about everything. So I was like listening to Dan Carlin back then, like Common Sense and Hardcore History and The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, Mysterious Universe. And so I went through this whole scientific, humanism and skeptical stuff. And then I was like, these guys are really just making fun of people that have seen stuff. So I kind of leaped from trying all that out and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I went through that phase of because I was already sort of very spiritual and I had this UFO sighting. So I already had that sort of foundation, but I went through that research of the skeptical way. And then I realized this is they're just not counting any of this as real. They're just making fun of everybody who's seen a bloody UFO. And I mean, it's really proven that these new atheists and these sort of materialists are losing the battle. Anyways, somebody was like, you should start a podcast. This is a few years afterwards, maybe early, 2010-ish, kind of 2011-ish. And I'm like, I don't think so. But then when I met Darren and we went, when I was working in Alberta, when I moved to Alberta, we went to some conferences and met a whole bunch of awesome researchers and awesome people. And we were listening to podcasts and we're like, we could do this. We could do a podcast. And we thought, well, let's do it. And we can talk to some of these researchers ourselves. And it ended up being sort of a voice for the listeners to tell their experiences, whether it was synchronicities or UFOs. We realized a lot of people want to tell their story. So we kind of tried to get people involved by reading emails and, giving them a bit of a voice.
Yeah, I take the same philosophy, man. Absolute same philosophy. Again, that's just you and I agreeing with each other the whole time. Yeah, it does seem to be that there used to be, and I see this wave changing for sure with shows like yours and mine, that it was just on there as an opportunity to build themselves up in an egoic sense and tear somebody else down for something that they, number one, don't understand, and number two, can't verify. You can't verify somebody else's experience. This is why eyewitness testimonies are the most unreliable in court cases, because you can't say somebody else didn't see something or they can't even recall it accurately. So there's this whole cognitive dissonance behind just saying that something miraculous happened to someone that doesn't fit into your paradigm. But this understanding that you and I have with this has, and I know you empathize with this, it has allowed me to have some incredible conversations where had I been closed off, I wouldn't have.
Yep. 100%. And I mean, the whole environment now of podcasting and everything has changed so much since 2012, 2013. I mean, you know, we've been siloed now. We've been sort of like, I feel like, you know, back in the early days, we were looking at the iTunes cover page and seeing where we were ranked, and like people were going to find us through that. You know, now it's so different, right? Even after this 9-10 years, it's, you know, now there's more videos out. There's also like, you know, there's way more censorship. There's cancellations. There's people that are, you know, I feel like we're almost reaching a saturation point where people that want to find out more information have learned how to find it out, and other people are just going to stay in their own paradigm, and we're not going to reach that mainstream level to a certain point, you know?
Do you find that important?
I'm not sure. I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah. I mean, would it be important for you to be able to be on a mainstream spotlight and with your information?
Not me personally. No, I don't want any of that. I mean, that's why I'm kind of comfortable in the stealth mode. Grimerica's had like just enough listenership to keep it going and to maybe make a little bit off it, and not enough to be really like fully canceled. I mean, we are getting like YouTube's gone and probably by year end now, but we don't rely on that for anything really. I mean, but it does help with algorithms and stuff like that. But I don't want to really be out there. I don't want to be the voice of anything, to be honest with you. I mean, yeah, sometimes I flip-flop back and forth whether I really even want to talk about this stuff, because we're entering into a pretty crazy territory right now with what's happening in the world. And it's like, do we address it? How much do we address it? How much do we discern? Like, we have to discern, but how much do we, you know, how many rabbit holes do we go down? I mean, it can get pretty deep, you know. I really try and sort of stay sort of grounded in the middle, not throwing the baby out with the bathwater on either side, you know.
What's one of the most controversial things that you tend to shy away from talking about, but you think would be a game changer for everyone to talk about? Probably like the deeper aspects of the child trafficking, like the Q, when it gets into the Q stuff, the underground tunnel stuff. Like we haven't really gone too deep into that. We've talked about it at a less deep level, pardon the pun, but you know, I don't know if that, I guess that only answers half your question, because I'm not sure, because you know, I'm not sure how many of these topics should be talked about more than we're already doing. Like it, you know, that's a tough question. Yeah. Well, it is. And that's why I asked it. I mean, it's one of those things where, I mean, I was honestly looking for a little advice from you with that question.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what?
Yeah.
It's like we're learning together, right? I like, what do you think? And I don't disagree with you, man. It's one of the most important things, but it's so heart-wrenching and gut-wrenching that it's just so hard to talk about, you know, but it's so necessary. So, and then what you're really doing, though, is offering your energy over into a system that's, I mean, what are you going to do about it? I mean, it's the old Jim Jeffries joke, and it was, if you've got a problem with gay marriage, don't marry a gay person, right? So it's like you and I participate in this by not being pieces of shit, child trafficking and pedophiles, right? But what can you do beyond that? You know, that's the question. That's what we're really talking about here.
So I'd like to have some people on about that. I mean, and there is really no topic that we won't touch on necessarily. Right. So, but I just think that question is difficult because the second part of the question is the most difficult, right? Right. I think you need to discern first before deciding whether it really needs to be out there. But that's kind of opposite of what we're doing on podcasting, because we're discussing it openly, and then, you know, we want more people to hear about it. So it's kind of a conundrum in a way.
It is, you know, and I kind of dance between this idea of providing, I guess, just a safe place for people's minds to wander, and then an opportunity for discernment, and then, you know, just my opinions about it, right? Because when you get into the nuance of this and the facts of it, if we want to call it that, it's still somebody else said and somebody else said. Now, we know some bullshit's going on, but it's very hard to determine. So therefore, it's hard to say this is where we start with it. You know, of course, you tend your own garden, which we checked it off the box, but now you want to be more mindful. How do you approach it to where it doesn't turn people off, to where they just will ignore it altogether, you know, because it's too heavy? It's interesting. It's a balance, man.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about your UFO sighting.
Well, I was on traveling around the Middle East and Europe, and I was in a rooftop hostel. I was on a rooftop hostel in Tel Aviv. So I came up on the roof. It was dark, 3/4 moon. And I was with a bunch of friends I was traveling around with. I think we were on our way to a kibbutz. And I see them freaking out. I'm pointing up at the sky and they're yelling and screaming, "Oh, look at this." So I run over there and I'm like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "We just saw this UFO and it did this right-hand turn." And I'm like, "What?" I was so pissed off that I missed it. I was like looking up. I'm like, "Please come back. Please come back. I want to see you too. I want to see you." And then I spotted this thing and it was like a dodecahedron shape or icosahedron, maybe like this D20. And it was probably the size of a D20 at arm's length. And it was split in half and the halves were rotating against themselves. And the whole thing was rotating on its axis. Silent completely. And it just went straight across the sky in airspace. And I mean, I was like, "Is that it? Is that what you guys saw?" And they're like, yeah, that's it. So I was with a group of people. They saw it twice. I saw it once. And I don't know what it was, but the only other time when I got back and this is in 1990. So when I got back, of course, I was getting into ufology and watching sightings, and I was, got registered as a MUFON field investigator and into CSETI, the C5. I've got my old cards from the mid 90s. And the only other sighting I heard of that was similar to this was a woman on sightings who was in Israel, who saw a very similar shape. Otherwise, that shape of a split sacred geometrical dodecahedron or icosahedron is not a really common sighting.
No, it's not. You hear other sacred geometry craft like triangles and things like that, but I've never heard of this. And what it's kind of making me think of is like the Merkaba with the alternating. Yeah. I mean, that's so interesting. So you may have just seen like a Merkaba of an entity, and that's how it was kind of traversing, and it accidentally got seen. I mean, that's fascinating. Or
maybe it came back for me to see it too. I mean, I don't know. Like, why would it list, why would it be like directly related to my questions? The other thing that's happening more lately is that there's a lot of these black cubes within a circle sort of orb type sightings right now. And that sort of reminds me too, if a cube is spinning in a circle, I mean, maybe that's similar to what I saw. I don't know. That was like 32 years ago now, but.
And it's really interesting, too, that whenever you change shapes of like platonic solids, anything, sacred geometry and stuff, it forms its own pattern. Like if you were to spin, like when you spin a coin or something, you can see, a pattern, it creates this image. And so that's interesting, too, because that could give you some sort of clue as to maybe the real makeup or functionality or something like that.
Even if you look at this icosahedron from the top, it looks like a pentagon.
Raise it up a little bit. Raise it up just a little bit. There you go.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah. See,
like if you look at it from it changes shapes depending on which way you look at it and how it spins and all that. Yeah.
That's incredible. And I mean, even that seems like the Jewish star, right? What you saw, the dodecahedron, if it's paused at a certain point, that's the Jewish star, which is again the Merkaba, alternating triangles upside down within each other. Yeah. Absolutely fascinating, man. Well, what are your thoughts on UFOs? What do you think they are? What do you think's going on with that? Just your best guess. We know that nobody plants their flag.
I think it's all of the above, man. I think it's everything. I think it's ETs, it's interdimensional travel, it's entities, it might even be demons and stuff. I mean, here's my. And this isn't necessarily directly related to UFOs, but I might as well share it here. But I kind of have a pet theory. I mean, talk about discernment and stuff. But after reading all these books and kind of realizing that I believe there's like a brotherhood of adepts, probably white and black. I mean, I do think that if there's these people that are sort of learning how to traverse these invisible realms and communicate with us that we don't even know about. There's also, a group that's doing this on the dark path. And I don't know maybe they're responsible for a lot of this paranormal stuff we see, which could include UFOs too. I mean, so I think that it's a spiritual thing. It could be a demonic or a religious thing. It could be an interdimensional ET, all the above, black projects. I mean, oh dude, your partner, that you talk to quite a bit on your other show, Dave Zed, like what he says right now is like the technology is the same, right? Spiritual and this interdimensional portal technology is the same thing. I mean, that makes sense, right? The adepts can do all this. So what is non-human and what is human? I don't even think we have a clue really. Yeah. I think the human capabilities that we all just shuffle under the rug are there for us. I mean, even just some later movies, we had Caroline Corey on. Caroline Corey, I think that's her name. Her movie Superhuman, or what's it called? Superhuman, yeah. And it's got, talking about how kids can see without their eyes, and people can be learned. Like we have so many powers that we don't realize. And I mean, if you're studying this for 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day, I mean, how amazing could it be, right? If you follow the path of the master, the adept. So I just think we have no clue on what's going on.
Yeah, I agree. And it's all connected also. I would add to that. Like you said, it's all seemingly the same thing. If you look into the paranormal, Bigfoot, UFOs, time travel, stuff like that, it's all like the same thing. And so what's interesting about this too is it's, one of the things that's coming to light lately is, we get frustrated, let's say, if we know that there's a technology out there that would end suffering on the planet, end it, free power for everyone, everyone gets food, there's this orgone energy, everybody gets this stuff. And the frustrating part is if that's a thing, and you and I can conceptualize that, and we have like the Tataria, the ancient dwellings, the sacred geometry like we were talking about, and the knowledge from the ancients, then why don't they share it? And then you look at like, okay, well, if the ETs have all of this and they don't allow us to participate in that as well, like what's going on with that? Is it all some sort of big cahoots thing? Are they barred from doing it? It just raises way more questions than answers, man, for damn sure.
Totally. I mean, and that's why I started second guessing going out and looking for UFOs. I'm like, well, why are the good ones? Why are they stuck in this sort of agreement, non-intervention agreement, when the other people can come in and, they can intervene with the government or do all this other stuff. And what we have to make it happen from the ground roots up. Like it just there. I read a couple books that sort of looked at it from a different way. I'm like, yeah, maybe it's not, it's not just, it's not what we seem.
It seems
too
like
many questions.
It seems like some fuckery, doesn't it? Because you've hit on the exact thing that I've lamented over for the longest time. Now, I mean, why do you think that is then? Let's say that there is a group of extraterrestrials or non-human intelligences, which I love that you said, what's human anyway, or what's non-human anyway, and that there is sort of two energies that are interfacing with any one thing. So you have that, and you have it here as balance and all that good stuff. And then I think also, again, Lindsay Sharman and I were talking about this the other day, the middle path is kind of the discernment area where you have the two extreme options, dark, light, hot, cold, super happy, super bummed, and you kind of navigate those in a way that you find balance within it. And the same thing is true for the ET phenomena. So why do you think that is? Why do you think that, let's say, just for ease of conversation here, that reptilians, these lizard turds, get to run everything, they can interfere however they want, they can scoop up kids, they can adrenochrome everybody, but the good ones, or the benevolent ones, these Pleiadians, let's say, they can't because they're barred from any interference. It seems almost like they're barred from good interference or helpful interference. You know what I mean? Like they can rape and pillage.
Or maybe it's all about you can't impose your will, even if you think it's good. Maybe we have to do it on our own. I mean, there are some spiritual principles where you kind of think it does make sense. Like it's like, well, if they're starting to get involved in imposing what they think is the right way, then we're not doing it ourselves. And maybe we need to figure it out on our own. But it's still just doesn't really rub me the right way. It's like, can't you come in and intervene? Like, we're at war right now,
I mean, on all sorts of levels, dude. I could not agree more. And then, yeah, I'm with you. It's like, what's the point of it? If the point is non-intervention, but some can intervene, but only in the shittiest circumstances, what is that for?
Yeah. What, like, when are you going to step in? Like when we're literally right at the edge of destruction, or is it just up to us to wake up? And I mean, here's the question. Are we waking up? And maybe I think there's an increase in phenomena happening right now. And I don't know if it's just because the mainstream media now is treating it differently. So it might be like an optics thing or a perception thing. But my friend saw one recently, very similar to the Navy sightings, the Tic Tacs, all these all these sort of orb sightings that are like flashing in the daylight, almost like the flash bulbs that we would see at night when we go out in our CE5s, but it would skitter in and out of existence, it seemed. Like when I paused his video at the right place, it's in 3 different spots. So either it's moving so fast that the camera catches it in 3 different spots or 2 different spots, or it's just coming in and out of this dimension. But there's a huge increase, and I think it's probably because the phenomena is reacting to our accelerating disclosure here. Even if it's a soft disclosure, just the amount of, because there's just this acceptance that's happening. Maybe it doesn't have to be full on belief or full on faith or anything like that, but just a less skeptical acceptance of a phenomena, that it's affecting the phenomena, or the phenomena is reacting to that.
Yeah, this is what's so interesting is number one, the subjectivity about the phenomena, which is fascinating to me. It's everyone has their own experience with it, right? Even people who get abducted, let's say abducted, and there's big difference, my audience knows this, between contact and abduction. They're very, very different. It's the two energies interfacing with the same idea that we were talking about here. But even in that, they'll be abducted into the same craft with this different beings, different experience. One got their butt plugged, one didn't. Like weird things, right? And so again, the subjectivity is so fascinating with me, but also I'm to the point with it now to where I'm just like, it probably just facilitating an experience. And when you mention the spiritual elements to it, that's what I think about it, to be honest with you. I think that it exists in this way because it has to, and it won't change because it needs to facilitate an experience here, which is just the expansion of consciousness. At its greatest level, I think that that's what's going on for now.
Yeah, I would agree with that from a UFO perspective. From a sort of a demonic perspective, I'm not sure about that. I don't think it's, I think it's deeper than that, and the things are more interconnected than we realize.
I'm very interested. Please go on. Yeah.
Well, I can't say much because, but I can say, when I can say that my thoughts or my expression about something affects somebody else in my life.
Yes. Yes.
When it comes to protection from dark entities. So if I talk too much about it, it happens. That's all I can say. It's fucking, I mean, I've been through this for years now, and it's like, you know,
very interesting.
I told Mike from OBDM something, and as soon as I did that, it happened.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it
and
because
it hadn't happened for years? Like, dude, it's like they say back in the ancient wisdom is like, don't talk about this stuff. You know, it's like now I'm sort of understanding why not. Well, that's kind of weird because we need to talk about it, I feel like. But, you know, if you do, then all of a sudden shit starts happening. Is
the shit manageable to where the benefit of the knowledge coming out is more great than the toll it takes on you?
No, not right now. No.
Okay.
If it was me only, then if it wasn't affecting somebody else, then it would be different. But because it's affecting somebody else, then
so
it's not
interesting
worth talking about it.
Now I'm just wondering if there's some way that we can help. You know, if I know somebody who facilitates some sort of hypnotic regression or something like that, to where there's a key in here to be able to just discuss things, because I think we should be able to do that on any level. Just discuss it. Isn't that? I mean, that's why we're doing podcasting, right? And then you realize every fucking time, like it isn't just the one time, but every time I open my fucking mouth about it to a certain level of details, like it happens. Wow.
And I'll let you know, like very shortly after we talk here, like tomorrow or the next day, if it happened just from what we talked about now.
And I don't want to push it. I don't want anything happening to anyone knowing consciously now that this will affect somebody negatively. Yeah. Damn, man. Okay, well, while we're on the topic of disclosure, let's talk about disclosure. Is government disclosure of UFOs important to you?
No, not at all. I mean, my ideal of disclosure was just some acceptance of the scientific community and academia, really. But, you know, this was going back a few years now. Now, I'm not sure if I care so much about any fucking institutions, to be honest with you.
Right.
But that was I could care less what the government says. It's more about the scientific community accepting it.
I agree. So let's then jump into the scientific community. And a wonderful answer. I empathize with that 100%. And actually it terrifies me when the government comes out and says, hey, UFOs are real. It's like, shit. All right, Blue Beam, let's roll it out. In fact, what do you think about Project Blue Beam? Have you heard of that? I'm sure you have.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's another theory that I'm sort of building just lately. The last few days, I've been thinking like, maybe the phenomena is increasing to get a step on step ahead or get a jump on what's happening because maybe they know that blue beam is, because I do think that would be a good way for the deep state to I mean, COVID failed. I mean, in a lot of ways. In some ways it didn't, because I mean, in Canada they're still pushing the narrative, but in a lot of ways you guys in the States kind of stopped that. I think. I mean, I do think it was a failure, and I don't think they're going to stop trying. And I don't know if global warming is going to work anymore. There's going to become a tipping point here where the two sides just become more stuck in their way and extreme. And it's got to come to some point where somebody's got to say, fuck off with your control. Like, it's not going to, we're not buying it anymore. So blue beam would be an answer to that. Of course. I mean, it would be like either a nuclear war or blue beam, something to gather the world together. And maybe the phenomena knows that they're going to do that. And they're like, no, we're going to sort of present ourselves a little bit before you guys get a chance to do that.
I like your take on this, man. Your interpretation on it, because now it's making me think that, yeah, of course, if there is some sort of psychic connection, or if there's some sort of awareness that they have that goes beyond what we're able to understand really conceptually at this time, then they would want to kind of get out ahead of it and kind of ruin the surprise, or kind of actually come through in
wake
a way
people up, pre-wake people up or something, you know?
Yeah, maybe that's where it ends with the whole like, oh, we can't interfere. It's like, dude, they're using your craft that they made. You know, they got all the Nazi swordsticks off the side of them. They're flying them around everywhere. Like, you're okay with that? It's like, no, they're taking your car and, you know, Grand Theft Auto and it around everywhere to scare the shit out of people. Go claim your property, man. Let's go. There was,
and they're saying it's you. Like, they're blaming you. So, you know, and not directly, of course, they're being very careful about that. And I'm not too sure that they're not all black projects anyways, that they haven't got this technology to flip in and out. I mean, they've been studying portals for a while, and they're acknowledging that sort of this interdimensional rift exists. So maybe they are flying these things in and around stuff as well. So I'm still not, you know, I'm just thinking, I'm not stuck either way really on what's going on. It could be all the above again. You know, maybe they've got some black project orbs skipping in and out of dimensions, and they've also got the phenomena itself is also accelerating because of it.
Yeah. You know, it'd be ironic as shit is if they created one craft, the governments, the oligarch, whatever, and they said, okay, cool, this thing is capable of everything. It can self-replicate. It can do its thing. It can, you know, create beings, whatever. All right, let's see what it does. And they switch it on and it blinks out of existence. And then all of a sudden you see these crazy craft and they're like, hey, that's ours. And then you're like, oh, and now it's got a fin on it. Oh, now it's got a red light, because they made it to where it can manipulate itself and duplicate and anything. And now we've got a whole race of things going on out there from just from turning something on. That would be crazy.
Yeah. Like almost like the black goo or self-assembling nano graphene oxide type stuff.
Yeah, like that feral fluid shit. That's crazy interesting. Yeah,
I
like
theory.
it. Yeah, man, it's fun. You know, we just have fun with it. And I do agree with you that it's mysterious and that it's amazing. So what do you think our experience here is all about?
Well, I kind of think it's, I'm kind of in line with some of the ancient wisdom or theosophical type stuff that I just read Annie Besant's book on called The Ancient Wisdom, actually. And the way she describes the reincarnation and sort of the live, you know, like learning and the evolving, like as we learn and evolve and move on to the next life and all that, we kind of gain more memories, more, I guess, experience and power. Like, I feel like it's for us to evolve and learn, I believe.
Got you. Okay. Do you think that there's any wrong way to do this?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. There's a black path, I think, which, you know, I think that if you're trying to control others or trying to use metaphysical power against other people, I think that's wrong.
Yeah, I agree completely.
I think there's a pretty clear line between that. Now, whether you call it evil or not, I don't know, because I think a lot of the evil I'm stuck there. I really don't know what to think about that. I flip-flop back and forth all the time, because I think a lot of the people that we would call evil right now just have no fucking clue.
Yeah,
that they're being evil. A lot of them are just, they think they're doing good, maybe.
Yeah, and there's this sort of ignorance that's attached to this. You know, I ping between many different theories here. So I was just curious about your take on sort of more of a Westworld sort of environment, right? To where it's not necessarily real. Let's say it's real to us because we're in it, we're acting it, we're playing it. But let's say the energies here only play out here in this realm, in this place, this world, this planet, whatever. And so let's say that whenever you hop into this experience, that you're given kind of a choice. You say, okay, do you want to do the dark side or the light side, right? Like a video game where you can play the evil, the villain, or the hero. But both are necessary to run the game, right? You need both. You need these energies of duality. You need it all here, even the shittiest of things. But people play that role because it's a seat on the ride, right? It's an experience here, and then you can kind of choose it, you know? So one of the things I've been really entertaining lately is that perhaps you all come in as black hats. You come in knowing exactly how the game's played. You get to fuck people over. You get to do whatever you want. Everything's cool. And then your next round, you're on the other side of it. You're on the receiving side of it. So you've been humbled by the experience because you know how it occurs at a level, but then also now that you're feeling the other side of it, it's this do unto others thing, and now you're on the other side. So I think folks like you and I, just a theory again, that we ran through our black hat phase and now we're in the white hat phase. So we learned all the ways to be evil and shitty because that's where you start, right? That's your beginning level in this place. And then you kind of level up and then now you're part of the white hats. But to this idea then, all of it's necessary, even the shittiest things. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that fits in a little bit with the theosophy because the karma, the sort of the karma view, right? That you really have to, you are experiencing this because of your past, or maybe it's opposite to karma. Would it more be opposite to karma? Like, I feel like in karma, you're kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, karma, in my mind, I've really changed the way that I look at it based on a lot of conversations I've had about it. So in my mind, what I disliked about it and why it was so off-putting for me initially is that the idea, how it was described to me first, I'm sure everybody greets it this way at first, is that karma, by definition earlier on, is that you only do good to get good in return or to avoid bad. You don't do bad, not because you're a good person, but to avoid getting bad in return and to only get good in return.
Well, but return in multiple lives though, right? It was kind of like, it's kind of a longer view of like, you know, if you're not good, it's going to affect you way down the road kind of thing too, right? So, you know, you would end up, I guess the way I think of it is you would end up doing, let's say, bad things, and then you'd have to atone for those the next time. So in that way, it seems to overlap a little bit with your theory where it goes from dark to light.
Yeah, and that's how it was approached to me in the beginning. And now I've since come to look at karma as lessons. That's it. It's just lessons. It's like, okay, well, you get lessons based on the vibrational match that you are, and you're always an echo behind, right? In this place, again, this idea that if you do create your reality, which I tend to look at life this way a little bit more, at least that reality is a mirror to you. What you are is what reflects back at you, not what you think, not what you say, any of that shit, what you really are at your core. And so whenever you think of it that way, then you do get this ping back. And let's toss it back to UFOs for this analogy. Some people will get shitty UFO experiences. Some people get great UFO experiences. And it could have been the same shift. You know, it could have been the same crew. They're like, all right, cool. Oh, cool. We get to go pick up Graham, man. Oh, he's awesome. He's got a great experience coming. This is going to be badass. And then after that, they're like, oh, shit, we're going to go pick up Derek. He's got a tough anal probing coming to him because that's the karma that's coming his way. Another fascinating thing I thought on the karma and UFOs thing, just real quick, there was a UFO experience that somebody had after a car wreck, and it wasn't a near-death experience, but it was a UFO experience after they had been thrown through a windshield. It was a very traumatic car wreck. Preston Dennett was on telling us about this. And the aliens came in, or non-human intelligence or whatever, and fixed her up, but they said, we apologize, we can't fix all of this because some of your injuries are karmic. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. How would they even discern the difference, and how far back do they go, right? So she's got to work on that herself when she gets back, right? I mean,
needs to experience what it's like to go through the pain of healing that because it's a karmic lesson from either this life or another.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you're like, how much truth is in that? What if their machine to fix the leg that was hurt on her was broken, you know, like the ice cream machine at McDonald's, you know, on their UFO, the thing that fixes your leg is always broken. So we just tell them it's karmic and we can't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, either way, this is a fascinating place. It just keeps getting more and more mysterious. So let me ask you this. What is one of your favorite mysteries here? Just any of them.
Oh, one of my favorite mysteries. Yeah, I mean, I've gone away from the UFO stuff a little bit more recently because of the government's involvement now. And I just, I mean, I've experienced enough myself too. I realized, okay, well, that's that kind of, although we still talk about a little bit, but I would probably say mystery is a tough one. I mean, here's one that's a little off target of this realm. We have, this will be a little bit of a teaser, a little bit of a highlight. You ever heard of DB Cooper?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So we went and stayed at, we met with DB Cooper's son on Sky Pirate Ranch. So we did like a 3-hour or 2.5 hour chat with DB Cooper's son. And we're going to release it in a few weeks here. After the guy we were also there with, his name is Dan Grider. He's been investigating DB Cooper for decades, and he's also on this path of investigation. But we got invited there by Brandon Powell. We're super grateful to be involved in the whole thing. But DB Cooper's son, we go through his dad's history, being a war hero, and all the medals he got in the war and all this stuff, and how he couldn't become a pilot when he got back because he had migraines, and they think it was from like maybe mustard gas and Agent Orange and stuff, and so he decided to hijack this plane. And then he did it again afterwards. So his name is Richard Floyd McCoy. And he did it again 6 months after, and the FBI caught him.
Really?
And they made up some reasons that are really shitty reasons of why he wasn't the original DB Cooper. So they kept this hijacking separate, and they called it the copycat and all this, and we caught who it was, but it wasn't this guy that did the other one, but it was.
Wow.
And there's evidence found now that sort of proves it. But I mean, there's a whole community around this. There's a whole 30, 40 books written about it, but we actually got to talk to his son for like a weekend, and we're going to come out with like a couple-hour podcast. So, I mean, that's just a recent sort of real mystery that's kind of not as paranormal, more of as a cultural phenomenon.
Oh, it's still a great mystery though. And that's amazing that you were so involved in that and got to talk to his son, man. That's huge.
Oh yeah.
That's
huge. For days. Like we stayed there, hung out, interviewed him, had dinner, and
pretty cool cat.
That'll be oh yeah, fantastic guy. Yeah.
That's so cool. Okay, well, now definitely, I can't wait for that episode. So absolutely.
Actually, let me tease a little bit more. And the FBI shot him. So we were at the house that the FBI shot him from the front door. Like we were actually with the Dan Grider, who was like standing in the doorway with a gun, showing how it happened when DB Cooper came up the steps. And so, it was pretty much like they came out with a book called The Real McCoy, these two FBI agents, and Rick's mom, who we were staying with Rick here, his mom and his grandma passed away recently. So it enabled this whole thing to come out, but his mom sued the FBI and got the book taken off. It's called The Real McCoy after like 300 copies or something like that. So just some more sort of teasers for them. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm a listener anyway, so I was going to check it out anyhow, but now I'm extremely excited about it. So thanks, dude. All right. Let's definitely talk about your contact at the cabin, man, that you do. It's fascinating. I'm going to join you for one of those pretty soon, brother. I promise. But let's talk about that, man, because that sounds fascinating.
Yeah, well, we got one coming up at Shasta. It's called Magic on the Mountain, and Greg Carlwood will be there as well on that one. And that'll be with Joe Roop, Owen Hunt, and Brandon Powell, kind of going through like Hermetic wisdom and transurfing reality and Wim Hof breathwork and Greg. And we might have some other special guests too, but that one's in Shasta, February 9th to the 13th. And then we have one in Bryce Canyon and Zion, and we go over the myths of the stars with David Matheson. We go hiking in Bryce and Zion. We stay at Duck Creek, and that's on 4/20. So there'll be lots of people partaking in that.
Legalize it.
And then we have Scablands with Randall Carlson in May, and Montana with Randall as well. And that's where Randall takes us around in vans to the catastrophe that was like the Younger Dryas and the terrain and what happened to the Washington Scablands from that. So that's fantastic. Get to spend a few days with Randall.
It's so cool. Yeah, definitely going to be joining you on some of these. And David Warner Matheson, we've had on the show. Awesome guy. Absolutely awesome guy. Yeah. So it's so cool that you guys get to go do that. What started that all to begin with?
Just meeting with podcast friends in a cabin. Contacted the cabin. I mean, And it started out just a bunch of guys. Like we were actually doing podcasting with a bunch of people we met, and then we like went to Oregon Seaside the next time, and we had more people, and there was just the conversations all weekend were amazing, right? And then we thought, why don't we have like a guest come, sort of make it more thematic? Like we can have a guest talking about his stuff, so it's almost like more of a live lecture, live podcasting. But he also hangs out with, or he or she or whoever it is hangs out with us all weekend. So then it kind of turned into that with Randall and Randall's great to hang out with too the whole time. Like, so it's kind of more of like and just the conversations are amazing, right? So we just kind of expanded it to become more about that too, and not just a bunch of us goons hanging out.
Yeah, but even if it was goons hanging out, I mean, that's still you're goons who speak and are insightful and critical, think for a living. So it's always cool to hang out with guys like y'all. But it's even cooler to be able to have that experience with somebody who you respect their research. You get to know, kind of what they think about things. You get to know like their favorite Simpsons episode while you're at it, what their favorite soda is, stuff like that, whatever. But it's just cool that you get to hang out and do those sorts of things. So I see you guys doing it all the time. I'm definitely going to come join y'all for one very, very soon, dude.
Yeah, it sounds good.
So what about the pyramids over in Egypt? Have you guys thought about doing some international stuff?
Well, yeah, we're going there next week on Wednesday.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, with Ben Van Kerkwick from Uncharted X. So he's got us going to 2 weeks in Egypt. Going to do a bunch of special permission stuff, going underneath some stuff that doesn't normally get looked at. So looking at the ancient technology aspect. Like he's got spots where you can see all the drill holes and the saw marks and the scraping of the granite that looks like it was done with a knife through butter, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that'll be amazing. We're going with the Brothers of the Serpent as well.
Very cool.
Yeah, the tour next week.
Badass. Well, we wish you, of course, the safe journey, cool runnings, right? Peace be the journey. There's a guy I just recently had on for the second time, a guy named Jeff Drum. Have you heard of him, or did you catch that?
No, I didn't.
Check it out on your flight if you get a long flight, or whatever. He's got a whole presentation with the video and everything. It's just back in it's two episodes back. But I mean, the dude has a whole theory about. He goes over to Egypt, I think, about once a year, something like that. But he wrote a book called Land of Chem, and basically it's Land of Chem, CHEM, instead of Land of Chem, KEM, which is what it was originally, right? Because his incredible observation and theory about this is that the pyramids were all industrial scale chemical manufacturing facilities. It's fascinating. I know it sounds like boring, but it's not. He had a chemical engineer actually look into debunk. He sent him all of his work, a chemical engineering professor, and said, hey, please debunk this because I sound like an idiot. And the guy not only didn't do that, but he confirmed it and then wrote the foreword for the guy's book.
Whoa, really? Eh?
It's fascinating. And what he's found with like collection bowls, with staining in the Red Pyramid, with an EMF or an EM sort of experiment that they did over there with the components that were mimicked from the Jed pillar that are over there with the alternating layers. And he found some phenomenal results. And then it sounds like that it was electroculture, it was chemical manufacturing, it was electricity. So it doesn't rule out anything. It's like, oh, it has to be this or that. It was knowledge, man, and awareness and wisdom.
Yeah, man, that's fantastic. I mean, Ben shows these bowls that were made. Very, very precise, like precision made bowls, and 40,000 or 20,000 of them, like that many of them buried underneath, like 100 feet down in the tunnels under, I don't remember.
Is it the Osiris shaft?
Under now. It might be the Osiris shaft. Yeah.
Yeah. I just had him on. So
and
it's
just
super
like,
fresh.
and you can go down and wander around these things, but there's so many made, right? Why did they make so many precision bowls like that? Right. Maybe it's like you're talking about. Electrochemical.
And his whole thing is with like the scarab. What is that? That's a dung beetle, right? And what was their thing about the cow? The cow was super revered. Well, what did they do? They shit, and then they were able to take their shit and process it into ammonia. That's where we get Amun from. Amun-Ra, ammonia, all of that shit. It's fascinating, I'm telling you. And it might be something cool and fresh. If you want to check that out, I'd be honored to get you in contact with him as well. He's just an awesome
for sure.
dude.
That sounds
love
good.
to have him on. All right, my man. Well, we're probably gonna wrap it up here. I'll give you the last word on this, but dude, I just wanted to see what's your hope, man? Like, what gets you out of bed in the morning? Why do you keep plugging away and plugging this microphone in and keep putting the headphones in and doing it, man? What gives you hope?
Just being able to talk to people, I guess, and learning about stuff, and I mean, imagining sort of a better world too. I mean, I really think that that's kind of where this is led. It went from sort of like mysteries and seeing how the media manipulates UFOs and that kind of stuff to now like, okay, the media is manipulating all kinds of stuff. Well, let's be a part of the solution instead and talk about some of these things and maybe help people imagine a better world, right? A better life. I mean, I think we have to get into that mindset of like, maybe breaking away or having a parallel system or something, or just enough so that they realize like, you can't control everybody like that, right? Like we need to have some autonomy and freedom. And I know that those words are sort of like vague, and it's sort of the eternal struggle in some ways. It's been going on for so many years, but I really do feel like we can collaborate and cooperate instead of compete, and competition's good in some respects, but for living and for getting by, we need to collaborate. So
I love it.
I'm just excited about some of those parallel systems that are happening,
Yeah, could not agree more, man. All right, cool. Well, we share your boundless optimism here. And thank you for your time, man. Graham, dude, you're a badass. All the ways, of course, to find you located down in the show notes. You guys definitely check out the Grimerica. It's outstanding. Graham Dunlop, thanks so much, dude.
Thanks, buddy.
Massive shout out to Graham Dunlop for coming and hanging out with us, brother. This is an incredibly cool conversation. Definitely be invited back on. Make sure that you guys check the show notes for the Grimerica podcast, which is what he does, as well as many other things. All of that stuff is located down there. Definitely take advantage of that. While you're down there taking advantage of that link, check out our resource links. We've got Food Forest Abundance. Get your freedom from fear on. It's about damn time to do that, so get it. Also, we've got OPUS, the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support. They can definitely help you out with any woo-woo that you got going on for show. Also, if you just want to start your own podcast, you're like, God, I love this. As Graham and I were discussing in here, we encourage anybody who wants to do this to please do this. And to that point, we partnered with our hosting site to be able to give you guys an easier access to that. So check the show notes down there that says start your own podcast, or reads rather, start your own podcast. And that's it. As well, if you just really want to step your game up, if you're like, you know what, I'm done with this stagnancy, I'm done with whatever's going on here, I need a level up. Well, also in the show notes down there, check out the Manifestors Guide. That gentleman has a scholarship offer for you, the listener of this particular show right here. That's awesome. As well, at checkout, he sweetens the deal. If you just type Expanding Reality, all caps, no spaces, for an even sweeter deal, guys. So again, that's a massive level up that I highly promote and have experienced myself, and that's why I'm so passionate about articulating it to y'all. All right, also down there, of course, expandingrealitypodcast.com. Check that. One link that you need. It'll lead you to all the socials, everywhere you want to go. The lives are replayed there, all the Too Hot for YouTube stuff. Merch can be found there, which is really cool. A lot of stuff changing on the merch very, very soon, guys. So snatch up whatever you like. It's probably going to be changing. It's definitely going to be changing. So I'm not sure if what you like is going to still be there. So go snatch it up. Also, you can sign up to become an Expansive Insider through that link as well. Best way to support the show. There's bonus stuff that gets put up there, as well as it's just an awesome way to participate in value exchange. Now, if you just want to do that, there's a link also down there that reads support the mission, and you can do that. There's no firmament on that, guys, so just pour in as much abundance as you'd like, because that's what we're rolling with here. So thank you everyone, by the way, who's participating in that. It warms my heart to see this. When you put something out like that, you don't know how it's going to go, but it actually warms my heart to see the community participate in that, because you see the value in it. You understand that this is what it takes. This is the next step for everyone, is to be in cahoots with one another in this energetic way. All right, so please go out into this incredibly cool and amazingly mysterious place, whatever the hell this thing is, guys, and y'all pick up a piece of litter. Of course, be nice to everybody that you come across. Go ahead and buy a meal or coffee or something like that for somebody in line around you, and really up the vibe. As well, while you're doing all the amazing vibe shit, you might as well get out of the left-hand lane, because that's a huge pain in the ass. You got somebody behind you wanting to pass. Go ahead and move on over. We'll be right out of your way, and then you can move on back and live your life, right? All right, but other than that, guys, go out into this incredibly beautiful and mysterious and what the fuck kind of place, and y'all just be good to one another. That's basically it. Just be good to one another. We're going to get through this. Hang in there. You're doing great. If nobody's told you that today, you're doing fucking awesome. So keep moving forward, and y'all be good to one another. That's it. All right. So y'all, thank you so much for being just incredible, for listening, for watching, for engaging, for being the most amazing sons of bitches out there. I'm proud of you, and I love you. And we'll see you next time.